Hello, you wonderful human, and welcome to another uncomplication. I'm Ryan, and yeah, I'm trying to release a video on each Thursday, and market look-ins are part of it just because I can't help myself. It's just fun. The technical analysis is something that I just keep coming back to, so I might as well be sharing it. I will say if you enjoy my efforts here, please consider supporting the channel. You can become a member directly through YouTube now. You can also join the Patreon, and if you would like to book a one-on-one, I call these clarity sessions or uncomplication sessions. This is something I was doing last year, and it was really fun to just meet with you and talk about your businesses or your ideas or really anything under the sun. That is my background. I ran a tech company for 10 years and have helped launch hundreds and hundreds of different projects because the company that I ran was a crowdfunding company. So have just kind of seen it all. So there's also a link in the description for that. But today's gonna be a short video. The video I did last week, I was a little sad that it's only had about 7,000 views. I think there's some really good content there. So if you haven't checked out Bitcoin and the Greater Fool, check that out. But here's what has been on my mind this week. First of all, I've been down this huge rabbit hole about what is the true Bitcoin. And I think Bitcoin is almost like a religion. And I think just like any mainstream religion, there's the Jesus figure, the person who puts forth the initial revelation, the initial ideas, and then there's a whole world of people that come and kind of claim it, take it, shape it, model it for a new future. And I was shocked to learn in the last week that Satoshi set about this vision, but as soon as he left, it was changed. And I don't know by who, I don't know why. I'm researching some of these things, and I'm going to have a guest next week who's a Bitcoin historian who I think actually was in conversation with Satoshi and was part of that original community. But there were a lot of things that were done to the current, what we call Bitcoin blockchain, that were a big deviation from Satoshi's vision and limits it in a lot of ways. And there are other people who have tried to get back to Satoshi's original vision. And so it's just interesting because if we're going to come here and we're going to make claims about Bitcoin based on the merits of Satoshi and the white paper and the view of his core principles, we have to recognize that the Bitcoin that I'm looking at, this chart here, BTC, Bitcoin Core, is actually not the closest Bitcoin to Satoshi's actual vision. So just kind of a fun rabbit hole. That will be next week. The other thing that I've been looking at, I follow a guy on TradingView called MayfairVentures, and he put out a really awesome video, and I'll put the link in the description. But I really like him because he's super sober. He is very experienced. I've learned a ton just from his TA and descriptions. And I like how he just rails against influencers and all the idiots in this space. And I would count myself as one of these at times because there are two competing factors here. One is if you're a YouTuber or you're a celebrity cryptonaut, you are vying for attention. You are vying for relevance. And I wrote down some quotes from this Mayfair video, but I loved, he said, if you are let me just get rid of these because I just want to talk about this right now. If you are a retailer in this space, by and large, you are looking for influencers who will tell you what you want to hear rather than what you need to hear. So the retail trader is looking for narratives that reinforce their own beliefs. And so the influencers, if they are spoon feeding those reinforcing beliefs, even if they're wildly wrong, they're going to attract that attention because that is what is sought for. If I am a retail trader and I bought at the top of a market and now I'm seeing, everything plummeting, and I want to feel safe, I want to feel smart, I want to feel like I understand, I'm going to seek out influencers that are giving me these kind of, oh, we'll be back again, oh, Bitcoin never fails, oh, whatever that narrative is. And so I like Mayfair because he's just really blunt about how ridiculous that is, how it makes the job of actual investment companies, people whose job it is to make money off of the retail market, it makes their job way easier because it's this whole flock of sheep and they're just moving from hill to hill to graze on, and the influencers are pointing the way to the slaughter. So anyway, I want to just share, I'll share the link to the video. I think everyone should go watch it. But I liked the way he broke down the technicals of where he thinks we're at. And I just want to share that with you. I mean, I hope I'm not overstepping my bounds to kind of recreate what he talked about in this video. I just like, absorbing information and then in sharing it back and explaining it. I feel like that's where I learn, and I also just like to communicate and teach and share. So these are the things I'm learning. I will always tell you the sources of where I am learning it. And so check that video. But here's the breakdown. So the main point here is that we had, these two big tops so far that came with their own fever and folly. And for the last, year and a half, really, from November 21 until the present day, it's been this giant retracement back down into the depths of oblivion. And there's a great graphic that is the market sentiment cycle, something like that, where it talks about the psychology of a market cycle. So we've got, starting from the beginning, when prices are on the rise. So think late 2020. Disbelief, this rally will fail like the others. And then there's optimism, this rally is real. And then belief, time to get fully invested. And then the thrill. And this is right about where I bought in 2021, right here when Tesla bought Bitcoin. I believed. And then it was thrilling. And then it was euphoric. And then we actually had kind of a double top thing that was a little bit different. So let's just call complacency as maybe being somewhere around in here when we were on our march back up. And just the whole space was kind of shouting again about how everything was taking off. And so now we've been in anxiety, denial, panic, anger, and the sentiment that I've been sharing on this channel is that I think that there is a longer timeline that has to play out before we can get back to the disbelief, hope, optimism, restart the cycle. And so when we look at the chart here, we're more likely to remain in kind of that anger and depression. And we're going to have these little moments, I think, that change the narrative, bring that hope back. But psychologically, the market is still, at least the retail space. And I know I've just been kind of recovering my wounds, and I've been DCAing in for a while. So I've kind of been building up this care. But there's a lot of despair that has to be rinsed out. Okay, fair enough. So this was what I thought was cool. In the last video I did, I painted on the chart just some really basic Elliott waves, kind of looking at this move and thinking about how much juice do we really have in the tank. Is this blasting us back off? Is this the recovery? Like this was the accumulation and now we're just going to take off. Here's what I was gleaning from Mayfair, and I just want to break it down for you so you can see how this logic works, because I think it's really cool. So if we take a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Elliott wave pattern, five waves somewhere in this area, and just to kind of split the difference, I'll just put it, kind of right in the middle. Maybe we've already topped, I don't know, but let's just call this a 5 wave Elliott impulse wave. So the things that are interesting is if I put on this fib retracement from our all-time high down to what is the bottom thus far, it's interesting that we right now, I love how these fibs are always just so well respected on the charts. It's really crazy. So the 0.236 is that exact line that we've been kind of battling. I'll zoom in here a little bit so you can see. So I mean, it's just crazy how well that has been following that. So maybe we'll bounce a little bit higher up and put in that 5. But essentially, what that would give us is for another larger scale cycle, this would be our wave 1. So if this is our wave 1, and we do another fib from the bottom of this wave, from this to the top of the 5, and then we say, okay, let me zoom in here. So if that is the top of wave 1, and we retrace back to about 6.18, I can do this cool new tool that I hadn't really used much. This is a trend-based fib extension. So now we'll go from, we'll just clip all of these 5 waves and just make this wave 1 with a retrace back down to this 0.618. And this is all just hypothetical, but these are the types of moves and retracements that we've seen the whole time. So this is a good, just logical basis to do some predictive forecasting, I guess. So I'm going to draw this trend-based fib extension, and I'm actually going to delete it because I already have one that I drew and sized to the size that I want it. So here it is, and I will hide this for the time being, this smaller one. So this gives us, if this is move wave 1, retrace back down to the 618, this gives us a set of extensions that we can now paint the bigger Elliott waves. If this is 1, retrace back down to the 618, 2, up to the 0.6183, back down. In a sense, this just breaks down kind of the combination of the Fibonacci extensions, which are really useful for showing the intrinsic support and resistance based on what the market has done, what the previous price action was, and then combining it with the Elliott waves to say, if this is wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we are looking at probably topping out pretty close to that previous all-time high. But what's relevant to me is think about the space. Think about what influencers are going to say. Think about what the narrative is going to be if we do have this deflection back down and then it catapults out and we start seeing these types of levels again. I think that we're going to be potentially fooled into thinking that this is the bull run number 4, and some of that euphoria, some of that folly might return really quickly. It's always insane to me, insane. I remember so clearly when we were back in these areas where there'd be a huge crash and people were just panicking, and the fear was eye-watering, and then there'd be a bounce and everyone would just like shift back into, oh, okay, my numbers are green again, I'm gonna move into this, altcoins, yada yada. And it's just like the ability for us to switch between these intense emotions is crazy. Don't forget it. Don't forget how easy it is to be fooled by the sentiment and by the emotions when things start looking green again. And so the thing that I liked about the Mayfair video, I'll put the link in the description, is that it just takes all of these things that we've already been kind of talking about as far as the cycles and the sentiment and the psychology, and then with this additional kind of bringing in the short-term Elliott waves and how that paints to the longer-term Elliott waves. I don't know what the timing actually is. I mean, these are all just things that I have complete control over. I can wiggle and move them and shape them to whatever story I want to paint. And I don't know if this is really the most accurate timeline, but the mechanics, the technicals, are something that I'm going to probably just keep this chart with this on it for the next handful of months, perhaps years, and just see what happens. The other thing that I liked about what Mayfair was talking about was, I'm totally guilty of this. I love looking at these on the log chart. So instead of messing up this, I'm just going to go ahead and go back to my trusty rusty BLX. Where are you? Boom. And so, this is a chart that I just love to look at on the log. And with the logarithmic scale, again, we're looking more at the percentage increase. It's a relative view, because all of this detail is lost as soon as we take it off of log, because in some cases we're only going from 66 cents to $1.12, which, what is 66 cents to $1.12 today? It's nothing. That move would mean nothing today, but back in these time frames, that was a percentage move of 40% drop, even though it was like a few cents. 40% drop. So if you were trading then, you could be taking advantage of the volatility in these moves. And so, am I apologizing for using the log chart? I think what the point is that the log chart can give us this deceptive view, where it matches with this narrative of infinite gains in a way. Not infinite, because the log, it does taper off, and that's something that I've really tried to just hold in my soul, is like, for all of us that are trying to get rich overnight, it is harder and harder and slower, and the market is more mature, and the volatility is actually decreasing. And so, those giant Bitcoin gains that we've heard about from friends or whoever, that, I bought Bitcoin in 2013 and the rest is history. That's where the log scale can be useful to see the structure, but it can be deceptive in convincing us that this is just the same cycle repeating over and over. And so what Mayfair was saying is that this might be a triple top, rather than the traditional kind of bull run single top, whatever. We could, in the next year here, paint in another top that is really close to the all-time highs before going down again. And then where does that leave us? Where does that leave the bull run cyclical cycle? Like, is that now broken? Is there a larger cycle here? That all remains to be seen. But I wanted to share that because, again, I just love these technical views into what seems like a very I don't know what the right word is, but if you're just following the news and you're just following the talking heads in the space, it can feel like this ideological movement against traditional systems or yada yada. And if that's where our sentiment is being pinned, it misses some of the really obvious just mechanical, technical elements of a market that is fundamentally just making money. And why I am excited to have that Bitcoin historian on the channel next week is because I think there is a timeline where Bitcoin went from being this ideological vehicle to create a new foundation for international finance. And it actually, as far as Bitcoin Core, what I'm looking at here, BTC, it has really changed from that theology that everyone who talks about Satoshi and sees him as this founder of this new powerful means to overthrow old systems. I think what we really have here is just another tradable, maybe it's a security, maybe it's an asset, I don't know, but it's just poker chips. And the value of Bitcoin is tied to all of the other economic factors that happen. And that is why when we look at a chart like this, we see not just a hockey stick growth of wiping out previous systems and Bitcoin becoming the new standard, but we see the playing out of a tradable asset that is going through all the moves. It's building its base, it's building its cause, it's going through distributions and accumulations, and all the while the retail investor is left holding the bag and is drinking the Kool-Aid and missing kind of the clearer reality of what this is and what this isn't. So I'll leave it at that. This is kind of a quick and dirty Thursday, shoot from the hip kind of thing. But these are the things crypto-wise I was looking into. And if you want to support the channel, consider becoming a member or joining the Patreon or taking me up on a one-on-one clarity coaching uncomplication session. Those are really fun. There's a form that you fill out where I just get to learn all about you and your project and what you're doing. And then we meet for an hour and I usually use MindNode and just get all of the stuff that's in your head out and mapped, and then start, moving things around and seeing how we can find some simplicity. So if that interests you, you can follow that link as well to the Gumroad page. But stay safe out there. Keep investing your attention in things that are truly valuable. And until next time, cheers.